Hey there, everybody. Welcome back with the Purplatypus is the name, and welcome to another Octopath Traveler 2 video. Today we're talking about ya boy, Osvald. Not everyone, but a lot of people's favorite character. I would say Osvald is one of the most popular starting characters and one of the most liked characters in the game overall. One of my personal favorites as well. But we're going to give a full breakdown of kind of what he's like, what you can do with him, the builds he can go, what kind of versatility does he have, and the like. So in the last few videos, I've been going over every single job that you can go through, and I am going to do that, but I am going to try to highlight like the three that make the most sense to me, as opposed to going over each one in quite as much detail. We'll kind of quickly cover it, and because some of them, if there's not a standout reason, some of them are just going to be very similar. So without further ado, let's first actually take a look at our boy here. Path actions here, scrutinize. It's always fun to get items for free. Mugging, it's always nice to get items for free. Scrutinize is cool because you don't need to pay. Like, you know, you guys know what the path actions are. Actually, these are two of my favorite path actions, though. I do like scrutinize and I do like mug. Free items and free information. Now, their talent, study foe. This might be the most individually useful of the talents. No, concoct is there. The talents are pretty good, but this is like such a quality of life thing. I love having this. What the hell's going on with my hair? I love having this talent pretty much all the time. It's really nice just to get weaknesses on normal enemies. It's not that good against bosses. You're not real like it. Yeah, it'll give you one weakness, but you could just use analyze, or you're gonna use analyze anyway, so it doesn't really save you that much, and maybe it saves you 1 BP, but it's just a really nice quality of life thing. Every time you go into a new zone, it's nice to have Osvald here because you just don't need to worry about it that much. Latent power, concentrate spells. Now, this is a interesting latent power, which is not at all true. It's a very uninteresting latent power. So you get instead of having spells be AoE, you can have them be single target, but they increase the potency. Now, this does make the damage really high on a single spell, but it just doesn't seem, the damage that you get out of it doesn't feel stronger than other characters' latent powers. It's like good, it's fine, but it's so one note, right? It's spells. It makes multi-target spells, single target spells, and they do more damage. It's just fine. Like, obviously, if you're gonna nuke something down and deal as much damage as possible, this is very good. It does a lot of damage, but it's not, there's no versatility in it, really. I don't think there's any like multi-target spells that like the way it's worded implies that there's spells you could do on your team. It's not just offensive spells, because it says very specifically, you know, it doesn't say damaging spells affect an enemy, or it just says focus spells on single target with raised potency. So I assume that this is, I didn't see it work for any spells you can cast on yourself. It does seem to be damage spells on the opponent. So there's only like 7 abilities in the game that this even works with at all. And the abilities it does work with do work well, but it's just, I really wish he had a different latent power that was cooler. I don't know, just like, I wish it was like double cast or something, you know, where it just, when you cast the spell this turn, a cat recast the spell. It's not like getting 2 turns, but it kind of is. I don't know. I wish there was just something. I think concentrate spells is a little lame, but it is fine. So let's go ahead and take a look at his base class, the Scholar. And how is Osvald as the Scholar? Like, we're going to talk about these classes in all the videos, so I'm not, to attempt to not repeat myself so much, I'm going to try to focus on the Osvald aspect of the specific class, right? When it comes to the Scholar, we've talked about the Scholar a lot in previous videos. They're all pretty good. I think it has a decent divine skill. It's a little slow when you're using it on him. If you're using the wisdom on himself, and then the next turn getting value out of it, you do get 3 uses, but it is a little slow. But it is powerful. But I still like usually end up using advanced magic because I could use that turn 1 easier. But if you could use this turn 1, but then you use it on yourself and then you don't have any BP for your spells, so it's like, it's a little clunky. It's good, but it's a little clunky. But if you want to hit really, really high damage, it's definitely worth it. I just think it takes a bit more setup than what I usually have to do with Hikari, I feel like. Now, he has 2 EX skills here, which I'm going to do that 100 times. You guys know what's up. He's got Teach and 1 True Magic. So Teach, grant a single ally your attribute raising effects for 2 turns. I think this is one of the worst EX skills in the game. I'm not saying it's literally the worst. I'm sure that there are worse ones, but like there's almost no situation where I've even seen this as being good. And with like Teach, it doesn't synergize with advanced magic or the wisdom because it only does attribute raising effects. So I mean, it wouldn't matter with advanced magic because you could just advanced magic another foe, or another ally anyway. But like if you had advanced magic and a bunch of status ups, you wanted to transfer them all, you can't do that. It would not do the advanced magic. But it's just like the thing about this ability, like if it said grant all allies your attribute raising effects, I still don't know if it would be good. Like if this was an EX skill you could use on Agnia, I still don't know if I would think it's that good. I would be like, okay, that's reasonable, but it's grant a single ally your own. So you have to spend a turn giving them 2 turns. Otherwise you're using BP. And if you want to use BP to give, you know, like if it's just like, if you're going to give a character, there might be a use case that I'm not thinking of. Like, but like if you want to give a character attack up, defense up, you know, elemental defense up, HP regeneration, like you just do that with other characters better. You just either do it with Agnia, being able to target everybody with the skill. You just use it with Casty, being able to give everyone full BP and latent power gauges, things like that. So this ability seems really bad and doesn't really add anything interesting to the character overall. The idea behind it, I think, is you use Stroke of Genius. You grant yourself, you know, if you boost this, you know, 2, 4, 6 attribute raising effects, then you teach that to someone else. But now you've spent 2 turns doing nothing, being a bad dancer, you know. So I don't really get it. There might be a use case I'm not considering. If there's something that I'm missing about this ability that makes it not so bad, do let me know. But it seems like F tier ability to me. I can't see why I would ever want to use it. Now, 1 True Magic, on the other hand, is kind of Osvald's saving grace, I would say. Because 1 True Magic is a very powerful, unique magic spell that only Osvald gets. Highly powerful magic damage that transcends the elements, and it always breaks shield points. Now, the downside of this, it costs 75 SP, up to 150 SP if you have the, you know, one of the support skills we're going to be talking about later. But this thing hits fucking hard. Now, it doesn't hit, the issue with magic is it doesn't hit that hard even with max BP unless you have things like advanced magic and the wisdom on there. So baseline, it's a lot of SP for not that much damage, but it does always break shields and it always hits everybody. So it's reasonable. It's a good spell, but you really do need to combine it with these in order for it to be double cast, triple cast, for it to be any actual good. But that's kind of the base class. Overall, unfortunately, I love Osvald. I don't think he's very good. And but I think his floor is much higher than other characters. Like, I know that sounds upsetting to hear, but like the Scholar is good, right? The Scholar is a very powerful class. You typically it's wonderful to have a Scholar, and he is a Scholar, right? So duh, what's wrong? The thing is, he's not really better at being a Scholar than anyone else. Yeah, he has the concentration of spells onto a single target, but and maybe that becomes way better, but it feels like it's a lot of setup for not as much damage as what the physical characters can deal. It feels like the Scholar is better at the AoE stuff, but he does have a way to do his go from AoE to single target. But even then, like Elemental Barrage on its own, other characters have, feels to be pretty good most of the time. The only thing that he really has is concentrating 1 True Magic and triple casting it, which is very powerful, for sure. But it hasn't impressed me that much. I don't think he's bad, but it's just like, we'll just continue getting into it. I think he's like a good character because all 8 characters are good, but I don't think that he's that much better of a Scholar than other characters because I think his latent power is a little not amazing. But we're going to take a look at all the classes, or sorry, jobs, you know, the terminology can switch. And I'm going to point out the ones that I think he's particularly good at. So Osvald has, I would say, 2 major builds that you can go. And only one of them is only accessible much later in the game. and maybe a third build. But it's basically you're going to have a magic build where you're just killing shit to death. You're going to have a red mage build where you can do basically anything. You could do you can go very heavy physical and very heavy magic. But you're maybe you're giving yourself less magic spells, but you still have good magic spells and you have good physical spells. So you're just good in every single situation, do a lot of damage always, which sounds insane. The issue with that build is that Hikari just does that exact same thing, but a little bit better in my opinion. So I don't know why I would use Osvald over Hikari in that situation, but whatever, we'll get into that. And then the third build is kind of just a support build, but I would call that not really, that's just underutilizing the character as a whole, I would say. But so the ones that we're going to kind of gloss over, but take a look at here are the warrior. Yeah, you can go warrior as him. It doesn't really seem like it makes much sense, but again, if you get into the later game and you have your of equal might, right, you give him every single elemental attack nut for the whole game. Suddenly you get here into the late game and now you look at your equipment and you have a you know, a lost tribes thing, right? You can get up to 823 physical attack while having 999 elemental attack. So like he's just absolutely slapping everything with every ability, which is great. It's good. But like, what about being a warrior? There's nothing about being the warrior here. Like the warrior would just be inferior to the arms master in this situation. So basically all the physical classes, right? Like warrior, dancer, he has no, this is if you're like going to be a support, you don't have a reason to do this ever. You don't need ruinous kick. You already have the super magic. The merchant is not the best at killing things, but there's a little bit you could do here. But again, the merchant is more support. You're not getting extra buffs from the hired help. Now this could be good for a money grinding sense because the final spell is magic. It doesn't synergize with your other magic stuff, but it does go off your elemental attack, so you can get some good money farming there. But that's not really, if you're trying to kill a boss, you're trying to farm for EXP and JP, this isn't really what you're doing. Thief, you know, just again, it's kind of like a hybrid. It's halfway between physical, halfway between support. This isn't really something I think I would recommend going with them. Apothecary is just, you know, again, it's just going to be inferior likely to the warrior. Like you don't have a way to spread replenish health. You don't want to spend your turns as Osvald using replenish health, using weak to poison, then poisoning someone with a poison axe, and then healing touching one character. Like it's just not something that he's really suited to. He's a very narrow character in that regards. Not like characters like Agnia and Casti, where just they have, even Temenos in a sense has a lot of potential wide ranging uses. Where I just don't think Osvald has nearly as many. I think he has two main directions, so there's going to be two, maybe three classes you want to do with him. I do think Hunter is one of the better physical classes, right? Like there's jobs, there's Warrior, Hunter, and Arms Master are like the three main dedicated physical. This has a little bit of support, which is very niche, while also having some very powerful attacks. Cleaving Blow is very good. Precise Shot is very good. You do have Thunderbird in there, which is like relevant, but you're probably not going to use it, but it, like, because you already have Thunder in your other ability. You know, AoE bow damage. It's not like, I do like, basically you're taking this because you want Cleaving Blow, Precise Shot, and then the Abating Orb, right? You're probably not going to go with the support stuff. You don't really need Leg Hold Trap or Take Aim. Take Aim is good, but you don't, the critical rate is pretty much irrelevant if you have the Inventor, and the accuracy is pretty much irrelevant unless you're using specific abilities. Conjurer is very all in on the support. If you really want Osvald to just support people and then attack when they're broken, something like that, like that's reasonable. He's doing damage in a sense because he's given everyone else physical, you know, extra damage output, and able to break shields. And then when they're broken, then you could use all your BP and just deal a massive amount of damage. So I think Conjurer is a reasonable class because these abilities are dealing damage, but I still don't think it's ideal. Now we're gonna get to some of the most interesting ones here. Probably the three special classes and the cleric. If I'm going to highlight the classes that I'm like, all right, what are the ones you realistically go with Osvald? You go cleric, you go arms master, or you go arcanist. That's typically what I would say you go with Osvald. If you already have one of these on your team, I do think there's a, like, if you have an arms master, you can have him go warrior or hunter as like a backup because you can only have one of the arms masters. But for the last on the physical, right, Arms Master, probably just the best physical class in the game. Sixfold Strike, absolutely nuts. The Lionheart's axe, absolutely nuts. Conqueror's sword is great. The Warlord's spear is great. Dancer's blade is great. Like all this shit is just super powerful, super good. And he's gonna have access to really, really powerful fire, ice, lightning, being able to cast those 3 times, and with 999 elemental attack, and having 999 potentially physical attack with the right weapons here. So this is just like, this makes Osvald be able to kill anything in the game very easily. The only reason I think that this is not a super, it's like A, if it's a good build to go, but I think Akari just does it better because Akari has a massively wide pool of unique spells, unique attacks, unique this, and a better latent power, I think, overall for dealing damage, because it's just either a burst or an extra turn. So I think it's just like, this is slightly shadowed by another character this direction, but it is, if you like Osvald, he is still going to slap the shit out of everything with this build, and I think it is viable. Now, for the magics, Cleric is one that I want to highlight as being one of his best classes because it just works with fucking everything that you have. If you're using advanced magic on yourself, or if you just have like an Agnia as a scholar and she uses advanced magic on everything, your luminescence gets, you know, doubled, becomes advanced. Your heal wounds becomes advanced. Your the revive becomes advanced, or it's called revive and heal. And then you have also all of your scholar skills and all your cleric skills, all your good cleric skills are all getting helped a lot by the entire team. So it's just like a natural synergy where what you're already trying to do with Osvald is use advanced magic to get more spell casts. And then this already just has synergy to go with it. So I think cleric is good for pretty much the entire early game. It's probably just going to be what you want. You might choose something like an early inventor, just for the flat stats, and if you can get an elemental bomb battle, it's okay, but you don't really want the springy boots change catapult on him in the early game. It's kind of like it's just a class that he's not really that well suited for. The elemental bomb battle isn't about dealing damage, it's about breaking shields, and he doesn't usually have too much trouble breaking shields if he's already using a spot, right? If they have elemental weaknesses, Osvald usually can handle it anyway. You can have someone else that doesn't have elemental weaknesses. Like if you have Agnia on the inventor, maybe someone doesn't normally have, like someone that doesn't have that much element, this will be good for her to break shields as well. It's a little redundant on him. And the rest of the abilities, again, I don't think you really want him spending his turns supporting. He's not particularly good at it. Characters like Casty with huge amounts of latent power gauge and huge amounts of BP recovery, and Particio, who can already fill his own BP gauge and already has a merchant class built in, so he's already a little more focused, like Agnia, who can spread those buffs out. Those are what you're going to want to be using on this class for. But probably the best class, if you're not the cleric or arms master, is going to be the arcanist. Now, this is a class that feels, there's a couple directions you can go with the Arcanist, right? You could choose to go much more defensive focused, much more Seal of Diffusion. There's basically the Malice build, the Malice Blessing build, or the Seal of Diffusion build, which is kind of what I would consider the 2 builds for Arcanist. This is the Malice Blessing build. Like, if you have this, that means Osvald has, and Malice and Blessing are very good. In case you just don't know, this is a dark base attack to all foes, and it restores HP to allies. So this lets Osvald be able to support the team and heal the team while killing stuff. Very powerful spell, insanely powerful actually. And he's got Blessing. Deal light base damage to all foes and restore the SP to all allies. So this is something that's really good to do when enemies are broken. If you don't have enough like SP for your super spell, or you're not trying to kill them in this specific turn, you're just trying to keep the fight going and break them another time to then kill them. You want to use something like Blessing, top everyone's SP off so no one has to worry about it, heal the whole team so no one has to worry about it, right? So this is what Osvald would do if you're going to go here. You just get access to 2 more of probably the most powerful magic spells in the game. Other than, like, from a pure damage standpoint, they're probably not as good as the one true magic, but they are very powerful nonetheless, and they're just great for support spells. Like, you just cast Blessing every single turn of every single combat, he's just going to kill a lot of stuff. Like, maybe if you have someone else give him advanced magic, you just double Blessing, double Blessing, double Blessing. You never run out of SP, you never run out of HP. It's a very, very strong and safe build. You're probably not going to use over half the kit. Like, you might use Seal of Eternity, Seal of Eternity is powerful enough with, especially if you have all these clerics running around, where you can give a character permanent 2 turns. So you could even have a character do like an advanced magic on Osvald while after he gets a permanent 2 turns on him, and then he could do 4. He could use both of the advanced magics every turn. So you could just have one character dedicated to giving their advanced magic to Osvald, and then he could just do a double blessing into a second double blessing. Or, you know, a double blessing into a 1 true magic double, you know. So very powerful builds here. And overall, this is kind of the direction I would typically go, is kind of doubling down on the magic build. Probably there is, again, the physical build you can go, but those would be the main 2 directions I would take Osvald, with Arcanist as one, Arms Master as other. And if you're not later in the game yet, then we're going to go with a warrior and a cleric, probably cleric and warrior, because you really do want the Arcanist ability here of equal might before you start trying to do anything physical. Because you're just not going to have the stats, you're not going to have the equipment. Like, you can get some pretty good stats with a good sword, but his just like, you're not really getting all that much unless you put in a lot more work that isn't necessarily needed. When I think cleric just kind of does everything he wants. His already high elemental attack, you're going to be able to revive everybody, heal everybody, revive and heal everybody, deal light damage, be able to recover your own SP with the mystical staff. That's very good in the early and mid game. So this is probably going to be what you want to go. So potential good support skills. He has actually some of the most wide range of good support skills. One we've talked about is a headliner here, is of equal might, right? This takes your physical attack and equalizes it to your elemental attack. The only reason it doesn't look like that is because we currently have accessories with upgraded accessories increasing our elemental attack. But if we take like this off, and we take our equipment here, boom, boom, boom. Now we're at, you know, 541, and these also have some, but you can see like we have really good attack and elemental attack, especially when you start considering that the weapons can have 300 plus, right? So this will let you basically get to 999 of both stats potentially, as long as you have a class equip that'll let you equip the weapon. Peak performance, I would say this is not the most insane in terms of, no, I think this is just a, no, I'm changing my mind right now. I think this is actually is pretty insane. It raises the damage dealt when equipping character is at or above max HP. It's not that hard to maintain HP, especially when your characters have, like, if there's a boss that has a turn, but you have 3 turns together, it's easy for a character to heal Osvald to get him to max HP. If you need to heal anyway, you just top everyone off, and then suddenly this ability is good. It does actually, I think this actually does more damage than the Price of Power. Price of Power doubles the amount of SP, but increases the effect of spells. I think Peak Performance is actually a higher damage increase. They might be pretty close, but I'm not exactly sure. But I like, from my testing, this felt stronger. A step ahead is, every time I use it, it's even better than I think. This also gives your entire party 1 BP. Having a step ahead is the same as having that merchant skill, which this guy doesn't have, right? Yeah, where you start with an extra BP, because you start with an extra turn. When that turn ends, your characters start the normal battle with a BP. If you don't spend a BP, if you keep in that first turn, no one spends a BP, you go into the next turn with 1 more than you would have had. So if you have step ahead and an extra BP, and you don't use any BP on your first turn, the first turn of combat, the one where the enemies rather get to actually fight, you start with 3 BP, so you can do a full charge on every character. That's nuts. That's super, super powerful. So a step ahead is really a full leap ahead of pretty much all the other support skills in most situations, in my opinion. Upgraded accessories is pretty good for hitting the elemental attack cap, but no matter what you do here, you have to leave space for deal more damage. I don't even have deal more damage on it because I hadn't been using Osvald for that much damage. I'd use him mostly as a shield breaker. And honestly, I just didn't use them that much in my playthrough. I use them more in the early and mid game, and then in the late game, I would be using a different team. But you do need to make sure to get that, because if you're going to use them primarily as a damage dealer, you need them to be able to deal damage. As far as that, there's not like the thing is, the support skills that are good are so good that I don't want to not use them. Step ahead is insane. Peak performance is increasing his damage. Of equal might is build specific. If you're not going to go with physical damage at all, then don't worry about of equal might. I would go with something like Price of Power And then I would go with something like do more damage. You need to have deal more damage because that's just the way the game goes. Now, if you don't want deal more damage, or sorry, if you don't want deal more damage, or you don't want price of power, you can also, again, use the upgraded accessories. It'll help you get to those damage caps as you get higher to the game. Like I feel like price of power is probably more damage, but it's incredibly SP dependent. It doubles the cost. It makes the one true magic 150 SP to use. So it's not just something that you just throw onto any random character. If you find survivability an issue, Fruits of Labor is good. Let's take a look at a few of the other abilities here, ones that I may not have taught him yet that I think could be good. SP Saver is fine on him. SP Recovery is like fine on him. But really, you just care about the damage stuff, right? And if you care about surviving, there's not really much better. Like, if you care about surviving, you want him to have... You shouldn't have to worry about him surviving that much, because you should have a character that is going... The character that's going to be your dedicated support healer should probably have something that's like, hang on, so they survive with an HP. The cleric one, where if they die, they revive. That way they can get a turn and they can revive everybody and you can get back into the fight. You don't really need that on Osvald that much. If he dies, it's not the end of the world. You just pick him back up, you start dealing damage. You want your damage dealers to focus on killing shit. Things like Advanced Magic Master it could be good, but I think it's a little too low impact overall. I wouldn't use it that much. But yeah, basically the ones here, like, the reason I usually use a smaller list of the ones I've unlocked, because the ones I've unlocked are usually the ones that I consider good enough to use. So go ahead and grab a deal more damage here, and then you have peak performance, price of power, step ahead, and deal more damage. It's just, you're gonna blow shit up. It is actually a very powerful combo. I do think that this is still not like, I still think Akari could do this just as well, if not better, because of the unique skills. But there's no doubt Osvald's a very powerful character, even if he's outshined in my opinion. So this is actually kind of interesting with potential items, because you're hopefully hitting the elemental attack that you need much easier. Let's see, what job do we have on him? As an Arcanist, let's take a look here what he can equip. As a Arcanist can equip a dagger, and this can equip a sword spear. So let's just assume that we're gonna stick with an Arcanist for a bit. You can equip some pretty decent items here, because you're not looking for the attack if you're going for a full magic build. So what you want to do is look for something with an equip effect, such as this. Raise the potency of fire and wind-based attacks just for being equipped, right? There's attack effects, but this is, as long as it's equipped, you have the potency of fire and wind-based attacks. You don't have wind-based attacks, but you do have fire. So you kind of look for things like this, abilities that are good and interesting, right? You don't need something that has a chance to poison. You want to increase the potency of different elements. And there's not a whole lot here that does that, but there are definitely some. Like the Moon Eater is the one that's coming out here. The Abyssal Rod increase the damage of dark type attacks, which is good if you're going with the not the Shaman, the Arcanist. As for this, you could look for things like Mage's Robe, right? Elemental attack in your equipment. I don't care too much about the lower defense. I haven't had him dying a bunch and felt needed. As far as accessories go, like, there's a lot of flexibility, but what I usually do, you guys already know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and I'm going to find the very powerful elemental attack accessories, which is going to be a mental belt. I actually don't remember where to get the mental belt, so I can't help you with that one. But the other one here, the let me find it. It's the one that gives plus 100, the elemental augmenter, I think. If you see it, shout it out. If you see it, shout it out. I'm joking. Don't shout it out, because I've already missed it. And but we're gonna find it. We're gonna find it. We're gonna find it. We're gonna find it, because I want to see the stats here. Hold. There we go. It was 2 below, of course. Duh. 100 elemental attack. So this one actually is going to be found in Sai. It's going to be over in the Eastern District, which I didn't know there was an Eastern District. I thought, when I came up here, I thought that was the far right of the map, and that I never realized that you can come over here until today, when I found this item. But you come over here at nighttime, this guy right here is going to have the elemental augmenter for you. He also has a forbidden spear, which is kind of cool, but you don't got to worry about that. But right here, I'm not sure what level you have to be. You might just be able to mug the guy. Kind of a hard mug. You might be able to just buy it in the day if you could find him with Partitio. Money is always farmable. But yeah, so that, as far as items go, that is going to be kind of, it's simple, but like, you want to get those stats, you want to get the abilities that let you do some cool stuff here. Like, I wonder if there's any equipment here that that you could use potentially that has a good equip effect. Reduces ice damage, prevents silence. I mean, you know, preventing silence could be good. Prevent sleep. A bunch of like potentially niche things that could be good, but you definitely don't want the Guardy hat, be honest. You don't want that at all. All right, so what are characters does Osvald work really well with? He works super good with Temenos, right? Because I already think that Cleric is one of the best things he could do. That just falls that the Cleric is very, very powerful. Also because, you know, Osvald and the Scholar could both, or in Temenos could both pretend to be a little bit squishy, right? Temenos can heal people over their max HPs, which is a very powerful thing. It's like a reverse tanking in a sense, right? It's harder to die from 4,000 HP than it is from 1,000 HP. Other than that, I think Agnia is a huge boon. I don't think you want to run Osvald without running Agnia. If you're going with a magic comp, unless you're just using only Osvald as your magic damage, but like if you're going with Temenos and you're going with Osvald, I think you're going to want Agnia as a Scholar, and you're going to want her to do that AoE advanced magic. Advanced magic is very powerful. And if you're running Agnia as a Scholar, it means you're not running her as an inventor, which could be a mistake. I don't know, but I do think she's really good as a Scholar too, and very interesting as a Scholar. I just really like that ability a lot. And then honestly, I know that this is the characters that are already in my party, but that's not a coincidence. I think out of the other characters I'm looking at here, like she just works. Also, Agnia can do an AoE elemental attack up buff, which is very good. And yeah, like these other four, all the characters are good. They can all work together. But then I think Casty is just a character you should always have in your team. Her incredible amount of versatility and what she does, she can help you with your SP hunger. She could recover everyone's SP. She could recover everyone's BP. She could recover everyone's latent power gauge. She recover everyone's everything at all times. The apothecary itself, I don't think is insanely strong, but I do think that her concoct is insanely strong. Able to keep the whole party doing what the party wants to do while she's there just to support them is exactly what Osvald wants, because he wants to focus on killing shit with magic, and then maybe killing shit with swords if you decide that sounds fun. And I won't lie, little Easter egg here at the end. Let me know in the comments if you hear this. It means you stay till the end of the video. If you want to be Goku, you pick Osvald, you go warrior, and you use the Scholar ability of Elemental Barrage, and you just have a Goku move where he just sits there and he goes ha 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 ha, and he just throws freaking Kamehamehas, especially with one true magic. Also, he's like, this is the true form, ah! And he does a giant beam. So this is the official Goku build, is Osvald Warrior, which is a Super Saiyan. Anyway, his hair doesn't change, it stays the same, but it's already kind of blonde. Anyway, it's true, I don't think Osvald is the greatest character in this game. I think he's not necessarily a better Scholar than Temenos is. I think he's not necessarily that much better of a Scholar. He's a worse Scholar than Agnia, in my opinion. So it just, I don't love his kit. The unique things he brings is one true magic, which is pretty good, and teach, which is pretty bad, and his latent power, which is, I mean, it probably makes him the highest damage Scholar. That is true. Like, the other Scholars just can't do that exact thing. So it does mean he's the highest damage Scholar, but I don't know. Maybe that's something that matters more. Maybe the damage is more than I'm giving it credit for. I have to probably experiment with it more, but still, this is more about a build. This isn't a tier list necessarily. So I should stop talking about how good the character is overall and just tell you how to build him if you want to build him. Anyway, much love. Purplatypus is Purplatypus. I will see you in the next one. Bye.